Real Madrid are the biggest club in the world. However, sometimes the fan base can be divided. You get your diehard fans that are Madrid or nothing, but you also get some fan bases and people that love the club, but are a bit more unbiased and respect the sport. There is a thin line between the two, and we've seen a lot of delusional takes from the really extremist side of things. Today, I'm going to be talking about my top moments where I felt like Real Madrid fans were kind of borderline delusional, but I feel like their fandom took over. I'll be talking about Vini and the Ballon d'Or against Rodri. I'll be talking about Zidane and his time at Real Madrid. I'll also be talking about Xabi Alonso and his time at Real Madrid, how things went, and I feel very strongly about that was the wrong decision to let him go. On I'll also be discussing the Galacticos 2.0 and just the overall shift to the way Real Madrid have been functioning as a club. First, let's talk about Vini. Vini not winning the Ballon d'Or over Rodri because Rodri was undeserving. The Madrid POV is that 2024 Ballon d'Or was a robbery and Vini should have won. They won La Liga, they won the Champions League. He was the most dangerous attacker for Madrid and he was the showcase talent of Real Madrid and the award should have gone to him. The Ballon d'Or had three categories to consider: individual performances, team performances and achievements, and class and fair play. Generally, the journalists ranked top 10, and basically, it doesn't mean that a journalist voted for Vinny last. It just means that they weren't number one for them, and they would be a point system for that. This is also the 2024 season where Rodri won the Euros. He won the Premier League as well with Manchester City. Let's take a look at both of their seasons and compare. So let's start with Vinny. Vinny had a stronger Champions League campaign. He was named the 23-24 Champions League Player of the Season, 10 appearances, produced 6 goals, 5 assists, and 2 crucial goals against Bayern Munich that helped us secure the victory and move us to the finals against Borussia Dortmund. He had an incredible season, 24 goals, 11 assists in 39 appearances, with a lot of that time being missed due to injury. Madrid won both La Liga and Champions League, and Vinny was very instrumental to both of them. Tournaments did not really give him any strength. He missed Brazil's Copa America quarterfinal match against Uruguay through suspension, collecting 2 yellow cards, and they were eliminated that match against Uruguay. He later apologized and, said, "I'm sorry that I wasn't able to be there for the game, but we wouldn't have known what would have happened because you weren't there." This ultimately caused the elimination of his country, and this is kind of where the lines get a little gray because for Rodri, he did a lot for his country. He didn't have the spectacular attacking numbers. He was solely just a complete player. He was central to Man City winning their fourth consecutive league title. He recorded a career high of 8 goals and 9 assists, and they went more than a year without losing a match while he was in the starting 11. He then helped Spain win the 2024 Euros, named player of the tournament, and he completed 411 out of the 439 passes, 92% completion rate. He he dominated, man. Vinny was more explosive and decisive in the Champions League, but Rodri was just more complete. He wasn't the flashy player. He didn't score all the goals, but he was there when you needed him. He was pivotal. He was instrumental to controlling the tempo of the game. When the numbers came out regarding the voting, Rodri received 1,170 points. Vinny received 1,129 points, a difference of 41 across a worldwide panel of journalists. This is not a case of voters diminishing Vinny or setting him farther away from being a winner. It was effectively a split decision between two interpretations of what constituted the best season. The margins were super thin and they were important because it destroys the idea of an obvious consensus against Vinny. Almost half of them preferred him over Rodri, and the other half preferred Rodri over Vinny. The part where it kind of went south for Madrid was the boycotting of the Ballon d'Or. This meant that the club was absent despite them being Club of the Year and Carlo being Coach of the Year. They still boycotted the Ballon d'Or. That left a sour taste in my mouth and a lot of fans out there. I believe this is where it became a very turning point into what people embody Vinian. He goes and he complains and he basically says, I'm not doing this, but he never backs it up. Same thing's happening right now with this contract situation. I'm not signing, I need more money. And then Real Madrid stood firm on their grounds. And now here you go. 6-year contract has just been signed. I see this pattern repeating, and I don't know if this is Vini, I don't know if this is Madrid, but I do not like it. From that, we came to headlines. Vini had the Ballon d'Or winning season, and Rodri robbed him. But the reality is not that. Vini deserved a Ballon d'Or, but Rodri deserved it too. Rodri deserved it over Vini because Rodri was the best player, the complete player. Vini had a Ballon d'Or season, but he didn't have the best season. And it sucks because that season was incredible for Vinicius, but that season was also incredible for Rodri, and it's between one of them, and Rodri deserved it. In my opinion, he deserved it. Player of the tournament for the Euros, won the Euros, was incredible for Man City, had the most goals and assists for Man City that season, but that doesn't take away from, again, Vini deserving this Ballon d'Or. Unfortunately, one trophy is made. The issue became out of hand because of the antics of Madrid and them taking a close football debate and became honestly just a bunch of whining babies. Zidane's second departure from Real Madrid was not about a trophyless season. It was honestly more about what happened behind the scenes. He returned in March 2019 after the post Ronaldo season, and his first full season back in 2019-2020, he won the La Liga season. This was post the pandemic, so there was a little bit of a gap, there was a restart, and they ended up overtaking Barcelona and finishing as champions. Zidane described that as that league victory more satisfying over the 3 Champions League titles he won. The following season, however, there were no trophies. Madrid finished 2 points behind Atleti, and they lost to Chelsea in the Champions League semifinals, and we even got eliminated from the Copa del Rey against a third division team. It was our first trophyless season in 11 years. That season was really tough for us. The 2020-21 squad dealt with over 60 separate injuries, and we had a lot of players out, along with a lot of COVID-related absences. Zidane repeatedly had to change his defense, use players outside their preferred positions, and that's where we first saw Fede Valverde playing right back. That doesn't make Zidane immune to criticism. Madrid's football was often dependent on Karim Benzema, and the squad looked exhausted, and some younger players even struggled to establish themselves. Odegaard, for example, returned from Sociedad after a great loan spell, but he wasn't able to do anything. Luka Jovic, what a amazing signing, but he wasn't able to displace Benzema or even live up to maybe somewhat levels of what he could do. Zidane preferred familiar senior players, and he wanted to use the same squad that allowed them to get cohesion with one another, and that's what he wanted to do. However, football's about adapting, and he wasn't doing that. A lot of rumors surfaced afterwards when he did leave that it's because Zidane was tired. But he posted an open letter and he explained that it was not lack of motivation, it was that he was finished as a coach. He said that he left because there was no longer any faith in the club, in him to be able to give support to the club, allowing him to build a long term or a medium term project. He was upset about the reports after defeat suggesting that he would be sacked, and the mental stress of this job honestly took effect on him. Madrid did not formally sack Zidane, but according to Zidane himself, they created an environment in which he believed he had no meaningful institutional support. As much as we say that Zidane could not adapt, he did. He lost Cristiano Ronaldo. But when you think about it, his first spell at Real Madrid, he built around him an aggressive attack and Champions League knockout football team. During the second spell, though, he had to be more defensive. He didn't have Ronaldo. He had to build his team to be a great defensive unit, and that would allow for the forwards to speak and do what they need to do. By the end of 2020-21, he had guided an injury-damaged, aging squad within 2 points of the league and in the top four of the Champions League. It wasn't an amazing season according to Madrid standards, but it was very good, given what we had to go through. However, he was being undermined every single time, no matter what happened. And That's the issue with Madrid fans. We think negative when things are going bad, and we blame the manager, even though we don't even look at what he's working with. And evidently, that's why Zidane left. I think this situation with Zidane allowed us to kind of understand that we cannot be this ruthless type of fan base. Yes, we understand that the levels of what we expect from our team are very high, but things change. We've seen Manchester United go from the top of the world to now struggling and now making their way back up. We could go through that one day. So we need to understand that what we have, we need to appreciate. Zidane didn't leave because he was scared of rebuilding Madrid. He said he left because they wouldn't give him the trust to rebuild. And honestly, I agree with that. He finished 2 points from the title and top four in the Champions League with 60 injuries. Nobody could do that. I don't think anyone in this current stage would be able to do that, not even a Pep. But Pep doesn't get ridiculed after every bad result and get questioned if he's going to have his job still. Zidane had to go through that. Every bad result, reports appeared saying next match could decide his job. And that is not fair to probably one of the best coaches we've ever had. When we brought in Xabi Alonso, I thought the club had changed. They had taken a different approach and said, you know what? Let's get a manager in and let's give him a long-term contract. They gave him a 3-year contract. He just arrived from Bayer Leverkusen and we knew what he did there. An unbeaten Bundesliga title. They beat Bayern to that title and they were undefeated. I think people underestimate what that really means. He also reached the Europa League final and honestly, he only lost for the first time in that final. His reputation was literally built around tactical structure, pressing play, and defining player responsibilities. Madrid were not hiring him simply to maintain the previous system. They were hiring him to change it. Xavi started at the Club World Cup, and Madrid began the domestic season pretty strong. They won 13 of his first 14 matches, and they defeated Barcelona in October. That was their first win in, I think, 4 matches. The team had conceded only 11 goals in those 14 games and kept 7 clean sheets. In the Club World Cup, we did see a loss of 4-0 to PSG, but I don't think we were at that level of PSG to begin with, and we had just got a new coach. Evidence shows that the coach didn't fail from the beginning. Xavi didn't fail from the beginning. It shows a coach who was well organized, attempted major tactical transitions, and then he lost the dressing room. And that's why I have an issue with the way things happened between him and Vini. Xavi came in and made it pretty clear. Starting positions were not guaranteed. You had to earn them. Vini was left out of the starting lineup against Oviedo in August, and he came in as a sub, assisted Mbappe, and even scored in that 3-0 win. Alonso defended the decision by stating that every player has to compete for their position. However, Vini didn't like it. He was benched again for their first Champions League game, and by late September, he had not completed a full 90 minutes under Alonso. I played not professional, but maybe semi-pro growing up. I know that you gotta earn your spot every game. I was drilled that into my mindset from the early beginning of learning how to play this game. And you're telling me Vinny doesn't know that that's how it works? Looking back at those decisions, I don't think they were unreasonable. Madrid had multiple forwards, increasingly congested schedules, and a manager trying to make them into a new unit, a new tactical, defensive, responsible team. Vinny was essential, but essential doesn't mean you start every game. The part that really changed, in my opinion, was the El Clasico. During the 2-1 win, Alonso substituted Vinny in the 71st minute. Vinny was angry. He walked towards the dressing room, made his frustration clear, and didn't even stick out the rest of the game to watch with all the other people on the bench. He later apologized to his team supporters and even Florentino Perez, but he didn't apologize to Alonso. I look at it in 2 different ways. Was Vinny playing well enough to be unhappy? 100%. He was one of the best players Madrid had, especially in attacking scenarios. However, was his public reaction acceptable? No. A player cannot publicly challenge a coach's authority when they won the Clasico. You can't say he was wrong and then we fucking won. That makes no sense. I think supporting Alonso's decision does not make me anti Vinny. I think Vinny is a great, fantastic player. However, I feel like Vini has earned enormous status through his performances and in the Champions League, being named the best player in the 23-24 competition. Madrid can't hire a system based manager and then prevent him from applying that system and then say, why can't it work? The manager believes the player is tired or not tactically suitable for this part of the match. Let him make that change. Madrid are not creating a team then. They're asking a coach to just be a man manager and honestly play on vibes. And that worked in the past, but football evolves. And vibes don't make you win Champions League anymore. And that's why we haven't won since 2022. Because this vibe based approach isn't what's working. Now, I still believe that Xabi deserves his criticism. His tactical ideas did not consistently translate to Madrid, and there were reports of friction between several senior players. Even after leaving, Alonso admitted that neither the football nor the management of personalities had worked as he intended. He said that it left a scar, but also accepted the responsibility and said he learned a lot from it. Madrid announced Alonso's departure by mutual agreement on January 12th, 2026, a day after the 3-2 loss to Barcelona in the Super Cup. He barely lasted 7 months after being appointed on a 3-year contract. And that's what pissed me off. Because you were trying to give him the ability to build a long term team and give him the time and patience that he needed, but you didn't give that to him. And I understand that 3-year contracts don't mean that you'll stay in the job at 3 years. At Madrid, it's always been results driven employment. However, there's a contradiction in hiring a manager specifically to create a structural change, a tactical revolution, and then abandoning that to less than a year into his contract. The Vinny situation became symbolic. Alonso attempted to establish that performance, tactics, and rotation mattered more than status. Vinny publicly resisted. And ultimately, the club said the coach is gone. So that really shows that players are bigger than the club. The coach has no say. That doesn't prove why Madrid fired Alonso because of just Vinny, but internal conflicts and all that contributed. And if you can't respect a coach, a player who played for Real Madrid is now a coach and had done incredible things at another team, is Xabi Alonso really the issue here? We saw it again when Arbeloa came in, that the dressing room was in disarray. And Vinny was there in the middle of it. I'm not saying this is specifically Vinny, but you can see the locker room is a big part of it. And Madrid need to move away from this vibes based people management type of managers and honestly become a tactical unit because we're going to be behind. Football's moving to a tactical way of playing the sport, and we're not moving along with it. Xavi Alonso was not perfect. He admitted that his football and his man management did not work, but Madrid gave him a 3-year contract and didn't even let him take a year to make a change. You can't demand a new culture and then panic at the first time that culture makes a superstar uncomfortable. Now, this last part is one that I'm super passionate about, and honestly, I feel like is the problem, the biggest problem that Real Madrid have right now. Madrid are moving away from the strategy that rebuilt them, and they're moving more to going back to the old model of Galacticos only. When we saw the Ronaldo, Benzema, and Bale era kind of diminish, we saw Madrid change the way that they did things. They moved away from Galactical signings and they went out and went for players that were targeted for reaching their potential. We saw Fede Valverde come into the club at 18, Vini, Rodrigo, both 18, Camavinga, Jude Bellingham at 19. We did pay big amounts. Fede Valverde was only 5 million, but Vini and Rodrigo were 45 each. Camavinga was 30, and Jude cost over 100 million. Now, I understand that Jude Bellingham is a very expensive signing in the grand scheme of things, but he was an established star. And he was a young talent who had proven himself. The common thing at Real Madrid was we were purchasing future for the future. We were getting these stars that were running into their peak years and they would be primarily playing for us in their prime. From 2017 through the summer of 2023, Madrid reportedly paid fees for only 3 incoming players aged over 25. Courtois, which you can't complain, he's a goalkeeper, so they can even stay longer into their career. But then we had Mariano Diaz and Eden Hazard. That shows those age profiles and the way we were going about things didn't work. Even last season, we brought in Dean Huijsen, Alvaro Carreras, Franco, and Trent. Three of the four were developmental signings. So then we could push them for the future, just like we did Vini and Rodrigo. When they originally came in, nobody thought they were going to make a difference right away, especially because we had Bale, Benzema, Ronaldo. But they grew into the stars they are today. And that was the model that Real Madrid was focusing on. I understand that the last few seasons haven't been kind to us, but you see the shift. 2026 has been a very clear win now type of situation. Cucurella, Bernardo Silva, Konate, Dumfries. These are big contracts for big established senior players, but I don't know if this is the right move. We should be investing in youth. Yes, I understand there are free transfers and all that, but this is a change in the risk profile. With 18 to 20-year-olds, the risk is that the player may not develop sufficiently, but you can maybe even develop that. With late 20 to 30-year-olds, we've seen what can happen. Look at David Alaba, constant injuries, and I don't need that to happen again. My issue isn't signing these bigger name players. I'm not saying that Cucurella, Bernardo, Konate, or Dumfries are poor signings, or even Diomande. I just think that there are other things that we're not taking into consideration. Does Arda Güler continue receiving the midfield responsibilities? Does Endrick have a pathway? Do academy players have a potential to even come into the first team? Does Madrid become dependent on purchasing players rather than being able to purchase younger players and then develop them? Do we have to sign stars? Is that why we're spending over 150 on Diomande? Because we could never develop a talent like that. I think my main issue with this is that they're not becoming like Galacticos again, but they're becoming impatient. Clubs struggle. We were at the top for a very long time, but we need to learn to adapt. And you brought in managers to adapt, but you couldn't. You couldn't wait. So now it's the same thing again. Do we have all that money to just keep splashing on players to make our team great? Or can we shift back to that model where yes, we bring in stars, but we also want to bring in talent so we can develop them the Madrid way? Look at Vini, look at Rodrigo. They turned out to be stars because we developed them into stars. The problem isn't that Madrid is signing bad players. These players signed this transfer season, they do solve a lot of our problems. But the concern is that they're replacing development with immediate solutions. Team that rebuilt Madrid was created by buying players before their peak and allowing them to fail, learn, and grow. Now the club looks like they're impatient and they might be splashing cash where it might not be needed. I'm not saying Diomande is not a great signing. I just don't know if he's worth 170 like some of the reports are saying. All these things I talked about, they're not completely separate. Zidane said he left because he wasn't given the confidence to rebuild the next generation. Xavi was then hired on a 3-year contract and told, you know what, you can change the next generation. But the players that were there conflicted with them and the hierarchy and all that. And he was gone in 7 months, man. And the whole club boycotting the Ballon d'Or because the vote didn't go Madrid's way. Like, how does that make us look to the rest of the world? And the recruitment strategy moving from patient to now going for immediate success and not being patient and thinking about let's develop our players. It's more of let's go short term, short term, short term. Real Madrid want long term dominance, but they want to do short term validations. It makes no sense. At the end of the day, I love this club and I want the best for this club. I'm not claiming that Madrid are poorly run because look at the amount of trophies, look at the amount of money we make. It's impossible to say that we're not an amazing club. However, I'm arguing that the qualities and responsibilities for Madrid's success are not being translated in some of their actions. So we either need to understand what Madrid want to do, if they are going long term or if they're going short term. But a club's longevity is, you know, how they adapt on long term solutions, not short term. Let me know what you guys think. Let me know if there's something else you guys want to have me talk about. The Arsenal video did great. So if there's another team you want me to break down in terms of the transfers in their upcoming seasons, let me know. I will be making my prediction videos for the seasons coming up. So let me know which ones you'd like to see. Take care, like, and subscribe. See you guys later.